Bhagavate Ramakrishna. Today is the holy day of Bhagavan Buddha's birthday. It's also called thrice blessed day. Let us meditate on the light that is Buddha. The word comes from Bodh, that means awakening. That awakening, that light is always there within us. Let us, for a few moments, try to be one with that light. Namostu Bodhisattvaya Sambuddhaya Namo Namaha. The household disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Today we will discuss Shambu, Charan, Mallick. Though very little mention is there in the Gospel and the life of Sri Ramakrishna, but one of his greatest contribution for us all was he introduced Sri Ramakrishna to the teachings of Christ, because he used to read the life and the Gospel of the Gospels to Sri Ramakrishna. And it was here, sitting with him, that Sri Ramakrishna learnt about Christ. And obviously a desire came to know more. And in Sri Ramakrishna's case, to know more is to realize. So one day, he had gone to another property near the temple garden, which was Jadu Mallick, not related to Shambu Mallick. And there he saw a picture of the Madonna with a child. And he kept on looking at it, gazing at it for a long time. And he found that rays of light started emanating from that picture. And it completely suffused his mind and transformed it. That's important. It transformed his mind. So we find that picture is now the Vedanta Society of Northern California in San Francisco. Somehow they managed to acquire it. So as Sri Ramakrishna was gazing at it, the rays of light started coming in, and he was in the mood of that Christ consciousness. He returned to Dakshineshwar, to his, as they say, room in the temple complex. And he did not even go to the temple to visit Kali, to make obeisance to her. It seems all the other ideas, Hindu ideas, had completely been sidelined. For 3 days he spent in that Christ consciousness mood. On the third day, he was walking in the grove of 5 trees, 5 sacred trees called the Panchavati. And he saw a foreigner there, but very sharp features, except his nose was slightly flattened at the tip. And he was tall. And Sri Ramakrishna was looking at him and wondering, who is this? Then a voice within Sri Ramakrishna spoke. This is Jesus Christ, the great yogi, the loving Son of God, one with his Father, who shed his heart's blood and suffered tortures for the salvation of mankind. And then it became clear, and then the figure of Christ, the vision, merged into Sri Ramakrishna. So thanks to Shambu Mallick, Shambu Charan Mallick, we got this Sri Ramakrishna's introduction to Christianity and the vision of Christ. Another contribution made by Shambu Charan Mallick's wife. She was extremely devoted, and she could recognize Holy Mother. She used to invite Holy Mother every Tuesday, which is an auspicious time for the worship of the Divine Mother, Tuesdays and Saturdays. And she used to worship the Holy Mother as a goddess. This is the very first time we find Holy Mother being worshipped. Living presence, as a form of the goddess. It all started with Sri Ramakrishna himself had worshipped Holy Mother and offered everything that he had to her. So this was another beginning of this great idea of Holy Mother as a goddess. Shambu Charan also, he had built a small kind of log. He had acquired on lease a piece of land near the temple because he saw Holy Mother living in very cramped quarters in something called a music tower in the temple garden of Dakshineshwar. And so he had bought it on lease and he was building a cottage. And there was another devotee called Captain Vishwanath Upadhyay. He supplied the timber for the construction of it. And so Holy Mother lived there for almost a year until she went back to her native village. In India, it was like that. You stay in a city for some time, then go back to your rural, you can say, home. So when Holy Mother used to fall sick, once she did, and Shambu Charan Mallick, he made arrangements to have the doctor see her. Now, apart from this, Shambu Mallick, Sri Ramakrishna was a perfect example of renunciation and never used to keep any articles around him, money, etc. However, he was vouchsafed a vision by the Divine Mother Kali that you will be provided for by 5 people. Now, one of them was Mathur Babu, who was the owner of that temple complex at Dakshineshwar and greatly devoted to Sri Ramakrishna. So after he passed away, the Holy Mother had shown this Shambu Charan Mallick as one of his providers. The word Sri Ramakrishna used, rasakdar, that is one who will, you can say, supplier of needs. So, in his own words, the Divine Mother showed me in a vision the 5 suppliers of my needs. The second was Shambu Mallick, whom I had not then met. I had a vision of the fair-skinned man with a cap on his head. Many days later, when I first met Shambu, I recalled that vision. I realized that it was he whom I had seen in that ecstatic state. So Mother had provided beforehand for all Sri Ramakrishna's needs to be taken care of. Now, not much is known about his date of birth, but his father was a very well-known person, and they stayed in Calcutta, in Sindhuriyapatti, and they also had a, as they say, a small cottage on the banks of the Ganges, near Dakshineshwar. So the property was contiguous to the Dakshineshwar temple. His wife was very devout. As you can see, she could kind of intuit who Holy Mother was, and she used to worship her every Tuesday. They had no children. And he worked for an agency during the colonial times. He worked for a British firm, and he made quite a lot of money, and he was considered wealthy. But he was also known for his generosity and noble character. And because of his generosity, etc., he was known there, and later on, a road in Calcutta was named after him. And after many years, when I was there in Calcutta, I seen, oh, then I connected it. Oh, it was this Shambu Charan Mallick. Though he was well off, he was frugal. He never wasted much money. So he could afford a carriage, horse carriage, but he used to walk from his Calcutta residence to the garden house there, his cottage. Once a friend asked him, it's risky to walk such a long distance. Why don't you come in a carriage? And hearing this, Shambu's face became red and he exclaimed, I set out repeating the name of God. What danger can befall me? He had a tremendous faith in God. And his inquiry as a young man had brought him to the Brahmo Samaj. That's where many of Sri Ramakrishna's future monastic and non-monastic disciples were members of. And so Sri Ramakrishna, he knew that it was Shambu Mallick's garden house there. He used to now and then frequent to his place and take a walk in the garden, etc. Because Dakshineshwar nowadays is crowded, teeming with people. So Sri Ramakrishna used to go for a walk there. And he considered, he was in a way simple. He used to tell Sri Ramakrishna, oh, you come here frequently because you feel happy talking to me. But as he kept on understanding Sri Ramakrishna, he used to start calling him Guruji. Ji is an honorific Guru. And Sri Ramakrishna used to get annoyed with this Guru business. He's saying, who is the Guru and who is the disciple? You are my Guru. Nevertheless, Shambu continued to address Sri Ramakrishna that way. Shambu Charan Mallick. The Mallicks, that family, that whole clan was quite prosperous in those days. Shambu Charan means, Shambu is the name of Shiva. Well, it's also used as the name of Vishnu. It's also used as the name of Mother Durga. But generally it's associated with Shiva. Shambu Charan. That is one who longs to be at the feet of Shiva. That's the idea. Now, Sri Ramakrishna used to go out there, but and since he was charitable and generous, he had built a charitable dispensary near this cottage. And once he heard that Sri Ramakrishna used to suffer from stomach trouble, that's because of irregular meals and the water wasn't good enough there at the temple garden. So he used to always have this stomach problem. And Shambu had told him, well, you take small doses of opium as an antidote. In those days, opium was used for everything. So Sri Ramakrishna says that he gave a small quantity of opium to be taken, tied it in Sri Ramakrishna's cloth there. And after they conversed and Sri Ramakrishna was leaving for his room at the temple garden, he felt blinded, felt disoriented. He just couldn't walk. And then what happened? Then he turned around, and the moment he turned around to go back to retrace his steps, it was clear. His mind was clear. He wasn't disoriented. So what happened? And again he turned and then tried to walk towards his room. And again he became disoriented. And then he realized, that opium was tied in the corner of his cloth. And Sri Ramakrishna never laid by anything for the morrow. As Christ says, let there be no thought for the morrow. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Let there be no thought for the morrow. That's what. So he was taking something with the thought for the morrow. So he unwrapped that opium and he went back, and since Shambu Mallick had left already, he threw it in the garden saying, hey, yeah, there I'm returning your opium, there it is. And then he regained his normal state of mind and he came towards. Another time also, he had given him some, fresh pomegranates. And the same thing had happened. The moment he tried to go to his room along with that gift, he was kind of blundering. Everything was hazy, disoriented. And then he came back, returned that pomegranates, and he became normal again. Once Sri Ramakrishna went with his brother disciple. There was another brother disciple called Girija. So Sri Ramakrishna, his brother disciple Girija, and Shambu, Charan, Mallick were discussing about God. And Sri Ramakrishna says, I don't know anything but God. So discussing, and they never understood how time flew. They were not aware. And it was dark, and as they were trying to return in the dark, it was pitch black. This was before electricity, etc. was installed out there, introduced in the city. And both of them couldn't find their way. Then Sri Ramakrishna's brother disciple saying, just hold it. So he turned around, and from his back, a huge beam of light emanated. And it lit up the entire road up to the gate of the temple of Dakshineshwar. And then Sri Ramakrishna could kind of find his way and say. Now we talk a lot of powers, etc., as hindrances. Yeah, these powers, some of these powers, whether they are spiritual powers or psychic powers or occult powers, they are obstructions. First, Sri Ramakrishna says, they increase your ego. Your egotism increases. when he suddenly, any power, you see. If even a poor person gets $1 million and see what happens to him. And Sri Ramakrishna has given us the example. He's saying a frog managed to find a coin. And he was so pleased and went and put it in his, burrowed it in his hole there. And there was an elephant walking over that hole. And the frog comes and says, "You rascal, don't you know whose house you're walking over?" And he tried to kick the elephant. So Sri Ramakrishna says, see, that's the power of that coin, the money. So Girija, he had a lot of psychic powers, etc. So his entire, you can say, the road was lit up. It was not a thin beam of light. It was very strong, more like a kind of floodlight. And then we find that Sri Ramakrishna, he manages to return home. And then he sees this guy has got powers. He withdraws the powers into him. Oh yeah, that was Sri Ramakrishna's work. Because his job was that the person should not be obstructed by these small things. And all through Sri Ramakrishna's life, you will find many holy people with some psychic powers, etc., they had come out, spiritual powers. There's a difference between these two. He used to draw it within himself. That's why if you find you're taking the name of Ramakrishna, and it's such a powerful name, you're supposed to get a little powers. No, that will not do. Ramakrishna will keep on absorbing all your powers slowly into him. So this was another incident in Sri Ramakrishna's life with Shambu Mallick. Now Shambu Mallick also, Shambu Charan Mallick, he was a very active person. He was a kind of a karma yogi. And he used to constantly work. And since he was generous, he had built a kind of a reputation as a generous person and a hospital, kind of a dispensary, etc. But Sri Ramakrishna's influence made him kind of detach himself from the results of the work. Yet he was doing good to the people. One time he said, "Please bless me, sir, that I may spend all my money for good purposes, such as building hospitals and dispensaries, making roads and digging wells, etc." That was his idea. Use the money for good purposes. And why? This is God's creation, etc. So help everybody. So in the Gospel, you find Sri Ramakrishna mentions his philanthropic, you can say, attitude also. But Sri Ramakrishna had approved it, but also warned him. He said, "It will be good if you can do all these things in a spirit of detachment. But that is very difficult. Whatever you may do, you must always remember that the aim of this life of yours is the attainment of God, and not building of hospitals and dispensaries." But this is very, Sri Ramakrishna, he never compromised on anything. When he had to tell it straight, he told it straight. And then he says, suppose God appeared before you and said to you, "Accept a boon of me." Would you ask him, "Oh Lord, help me build the schools and hospitals and dispensaries"? So no. What will you ask? You rather pray to God to have love and devotion for him and to have God's continuous vision. That is what you must pray. But you know, Shambu, though he was simple-hearted, yet he had that attachment to his philanthropic activities. So another time he says, Please bless me that I may die leaving my riches at the lotus feet of God. Sri Ramakrishna said, these are riches only to you. What riches can you offer God? To him, all these are mere dust and straw. This reminds us also when Mathur Babu, another disciple and also, as they say, the owner of the temple, some thief had stolen the ornaments of the deity. And then there was a big hue and cry. They were expensive. And Mathur Babu had come and he was telling the deity, shame on you, you can't even protect your own ornaments. And Sri Ramakrishna is saying, why do you have to say all these things? These are expensive to you, not to God. He has Mother Lakshmi herself, who is a goddess of wealth. And besides these, all these things are all like straw. So Shambu Mallick also was something like this. Here, Sri Ramakrishna is trying to again orient our minds onto this one goal. The goal of this world is, to live and to do something and to stay happy. But that is it's a kind of a small, limited idea of the world, oneself, and even God. Once God becomes an ideal, then you look beyond all these activities and all these things that you do. These are the means. These can never be the end. And not that he's denigrating the idea of work, karma yoga. He is saying, yeah, you must work, but know that you must do it in a spirit of detachment. And this is extremely important because the sense of I am the doer, is always there. When that sense of I am the doer and I am the experiencer, when that goes away, then the mind gets unclouded. It can see where exactly I was going. Because, we say the world is delusive. Yeah, the world is very delusive. No, it's not actually. The world is the world. It's just a neutral thing out there. And depends on how you look, it's relative also. What is delusive is the sense of I, the ego. Now, if that can be made into a servant or a child or a devotee of God, then it stops deluding us. People are saying the world is delusive. No, it's that ego that is deluded. So sometimes this good works itself becomes a cause of bondage. Because the nature of karma is, you start something, the next thing stands as a consequence. And then you finish the second thing, the third thing comes in. And you finish the third thing and the fourth. And then you're rolling down. Whether uphill or downhill, I don't know. But Swami Vivekananda is very clear. He's saying a chain of iron is as good as a chain of gold. Both are chains. So doing good and all that, these are the golden bonds. And yet, for freedom, one has to snap the chains, all chains, both good and bad. So, what the doing good helps is purifies the mind. That is true. So as a mind is purified, one knows, yeah, sometimes this good also appears as bad. I try to do something good and somebody gets an effect of, somebody will criticize me. If I do something bad, somebody might praise me also. And somebody might blame me. So this praise and blame is always there for whatever you do. The Bhagavad Gita says, yeah, it's like fire and smoke. Karma is always like that. So it's always associated with something which is not palatable. So however good you may do, however you can say unselfish way. Though he was very, you can say generous, but he was clever. I mean, he never used to just undiscerningly throw money around. So Sri Ramakrishna's nephew was Hriday. So he went to ask him for some help, money. So Shambu Mallick said, "Why should I give you money? You can earn your livelihood by working. Even now you're earning something. The case of a very poor person is different. The purpose of charity is fulfilled if one gives money to the blind or the lame." Now, in India, this is kind of very inauspicious. Hriday immediately said, "Sir, please don't say that. I don't need your money, and may God help me not to become blind or deaf or extremely poor. I don't want you to give, and I don't want you to receive." So, I say the words of a good person or pure person, they always come true. And that Hriday immediately understood, no. These are ominous words. Who knows? That person might really become blind or lame or deaf or something like that. And besides, you see, Shambu Mallick himself was earmarked by the Divine Mother Kali that he will help Sri Ramakrishna, provide for his needs. We don't know exactly how he provided, except with opium and pomegranates, etc. But he was also part of the divine play, introducing Sri Ramakrishna to Christ, and he had a vision, and that brought in a greater understanding between these organized religions. Not Hinduism is not organized, it's kind of disorganized, completely disorganized. That's why it's difficult to kill. It's difficult to destroy. So it morphs into many, many things. It is morphing into many things. So where you try to hit, you found people. In organized religions, you pull the carpet and everything comes down. So that's science. That's science's work. So here, Sri Ramakrishna, he served Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother for 4 years. So like I said, they never had children, and both of them were extremely devoted to God and to Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. And he became bedridden because of his high sugar, diabetes. And in those days, they never understood about insulin and all these pancreas. Sri Ramakrishna had gone to see him when he was bedridden. And then Shambu, he tells Sri Ramakrishna's nephew, both had gone together, "I have packed my bags and I'm ready for the journey." When the master told him, "Don't say such things," Shambu replied, "No, please bless me that I may cast all these possessions and go straight to God." So he now was aware. Okay. While returning to Dakshineshwar, the master told Hriday, "The oil in Shambu's lamp has run out." Shambu died in 1877. Now we don't know his final moments because there's no record at all. Very little has been written about him in the literature. But Sri Ramakrishna, mentioning him one time, he says, "God's devotees have nothing to fear. They are his own. He always stands by them." And Sri Ramakrishna himself has said, at the time of death, I will have to come to the devotees and liberate them. So this is an assurance that we have got. One of the first assurances that Sri Ramakrishna appears to the devotees. Because when one is dying, as we know, one is extremely weak, and to have the classical, you can say, death, as in the Bhagavad Gita is mentioned, one has to pull all the life forces and center them in the heart. And with the strength of yoga, then start lifting the consciousness higher and higher and higher and higher till it reaches the head. And when it comes down to the center of the eyebrows, one repeats the sacred syllable Om and gives up the body. Now that is possible only for those great yogis. Imagine a person is dying and he's supposed to do all these things. So Sri Ramakrishna knows this is not possible for those guys. For all the other devotees, Sri Ramakrishna himself come. So when they see Sri Ramakrishna in a vision, that final moment is this. So whatever you see in the final, your final thought rather, is what dictates where you're going to go. So you see Sri Ramakrishna, you go to Sri Ramakrishna. So he has come to liberate souls. We work out a karma, he comes. So this is what happened with also Shambu Charan Mallick. And as we've seen that he was, from the young age only, he used to inquire about God. He had tremendous faith in God. And that was what brought him that grace of the Divine Mother. And that was what made him one of Sri Ramakrishna's providers. So this is Sri Ramakrishna's one provider. They say that he was a third provider, but then we can take it that the Divine Mother showed him he was one of the 5. So here we end this wonderful life of Shambu Mallick that is presented to us in some parts of the Ramakrishna literature. Om, peace, peace, peace. Time for questions. Was Shambu's wife with Holy Mother after Thakur passed away, or did she also pass away before Thakur? There's no mention about her at all, only that she used to worship Holy Mother every Tuesday. And that was in 1875. Yeah, somewhere around that, 1875. And we even don't know whether, 1874, and we even don't know whether she survived long after her husband, or whether one of those things that in the early days we never followed things up. And we thought all these people were kind of insignificant. As time passes, we find that even the smallest acquaintance with Ramakrishna, or the smallest, you can say, meeting with Sri Ramakrishna, has made these people really great and venerable. So the early researchers should have followed the train of, you can say, and followed the historicity of both of them. However, so we don't know. So maybe in the future, there are these researchers who are still digging, and they're coming out with newer and newer things. They'll probably come up with a few things. So our next devotee that we will take is Manmohan Mitra. That's another character, a wonderful character, and very deep, and yet, they had all strayed, and then they were brought back to Sri Ramakrishna. So it's a wonderful life also. So do you have any questions here? Sri Ramakrishna, oh yeah.
So, Shambuji, right? He had, you said he had a clinic and a charitable thing. Does the whole Ramakrishna thing of having a charitable thing come from that?
Yeah. I wanted to mention that, but I kept it. But yeah, the question is, he had a charitable dispensary and all these things. And now the Ramakrishna mission everywhere in India, wherever they go, the first thing they do is build charitable dispensaries and hospitals and schools. We don't know. But this, the beginning of the Ramakrishna's way of, Ramakrishna mission's way of building has come from Swami Vivekananda. And in those days, it was quite common to have, because there was no healthcare system at all under colonial times, nothing. There was no educational system at all. Absolutely. So there were famines galore. So everything was in a mess out there. So for 200 years, the British, they kind of, English, they ruled there. And it was nothing but a kind of total suppression of society. People somehow managed to survive. And people were poor. And, in those days, there was no modern medicine, as they say. Calcutta Medical College had opened, but it was meant only for the few and the doctors studying. So this was his great, you can say, generosity and charitableness. So that's a good question, whether we started it because of Shambu Mallick, but we started it because of Swami Vivekananda. Well, he used to write letters from here, go door to door and all that, and take medicines and take educational materials and teach the children, teach the women, teach the men, teach. And we are doing that, of course, in India. Yes, so we don't, just to mention, Sri Ramakrishna, one of his brother disciples was Girija. That is, so Sri Ramakrishna, one of Sri Ramakrishna's guru was the Bhairavi Brahmani, his tantric teacher. She had met already and initiated 2 disciples, and the Divine Mother had told her that you will meet the 3rd one on the banks of the Ganges somewhere. So she came on, her insight had led her down the, you can say, the banks of the Ganges, where she spotted Sri Ramakrishna. And she said, oh, you are here. I have met 2 of my disciples, the 3rd one. So the other one, Sri Ramakrishna, other brother disciple, Girija was the one, and the other disciple, he had the powers to make himself invisible. So just to kind of, so he could make it. And Sri Ramakrishna had drawn his powers also into him. So they bereft of all powers. But Sri Ramakrishna should confer the powers of purity. That is what. He'll take away everything and will give you purity. That is the best power, of course. Okay. So we stop here for today. And Sunday lecture will be on the Vesper hymns of Sri Ramakrishna by Swami Brahmatmananda, our brother Jim. And we also have the meditation on yoga at the retreat. We also have on this coming Sunday, Ram Naam at 6:45. So please join us on this Sunday for the morning and evening program. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.